So today's presentation is about the Aviation Weather Mission, and we'll go ahead and go to the next slide if you don't mind. And in talking about the Aviation Weather Mission, I'm going to hand this off to the Civil Air Patrol, in particular Captain Shannon Babb, who is the mission director for this project. And I'm so excited about getting to hear from the cadets and their stories. So we'll go next slide and hand it off to Captain Babb.
Good evening. We are so excited that you will be joining us for this presentation about a very, very special mission. But before we jumped into the science, we would want to give you a little bit of context about who we are as an organization. The Civil Air Patrol is an amazing group of volunteers who serve America, save lives, and help to shape the future of the United States. We are the volunteer auxiliary, the civilian auxiliary of the U.S. Air Force. And the Civil Air Patrol has three missions: cadet programs, emergency services, and aerospace education. And we really love supporting the GLOBE program because it allows us to use all three at the same time. Now, the Civil Air Patrol actually has a long history with GLOBE. Some of our units started using the GLOBE Observer app back in 2017 with the solar eclipse that crossed the United States. But it wasn't until 2023 where we got to do it as a nationwide community. And that is because the 2023 and 2024 solar eclipses gave us the opportunity to collect data as a GLOBE mission. Now, these first two missions had a lot of people nationwide working together. We had over 4,000 Civil Air Patrol participants. These participants were scattered across all 50 states, 2 U.S. territories, and 2 Canadian provinces. We utilized the GLOBE app to measure changes in clouds and air temperatures, like I suspect many of you. But unlike many other GLOBE volunteers, Civil Air Patrol worked to collect additional data to give the air temperature and cloud data more context. We measured the effect that the solar eclipse had on wind, speed, and direction. We also got to measure how the solar eclipse changed precipitation over time. And we use our radios to measure how the solar eclipse impacted VHF radio communication. Now, there were some really cool things that happened in the data. And some of the scientists working with that data discovered that there was some unexpected phenomenon happening at the altitudes that aircraft fly. And that caused contrails to show up in places that the models didn't necessarily predict. That helped inspire the Civil Air Patrol and GLOBE to collaborate on our next mission. This mission is the Aviation Weather Mission, where we had over 3,800 Civil Air Patrol members work together to collect data on the altitudes that aircraft fly. During this, we had teams in 48 states and 2 U.S. territories. Now, this one was special because we ended up using the GLOBE app in a way that it hadn't been used before. We used it to capture contrail data from specific aircraft and then used things like a sextant and a compass to give that photo context. And we're going to have some other speakers tonight that are going to tell you how they did that in more detail. We also collected additional weather data to help give the information we collected more context. Now, we're going to have some amazing speakers tonight, and they're going to be using some terms that you may not be familiar with. Because we are the Air Force Auxiliary, we are organized based on where we live. As you can see, we have a map of regions. So we have 8 regions across the United States, and you are going to meet a cadet from each and every one of these regions. Now, within those regions, we have states and U.S. territories. Now, we end up calling those states and territories wings. So a wing is either a state or a territory. And then finally, within each wing, we have a unit, a group that we meet with. That is our squadron. Now, we have cadets from different types of squadrons. We have squadrons that are for primarily youth, so cadets who are between the ages of 12 and 20. These are called cadet squadrons. Then we have squadrons that are just for adults, who we call our senior members. Those are called senior squadrons. And in between, we have some squadrons that are for both cadets and senior members. We call these composite squadrons. So we have a number of these new terms. I want you to listen for when we mention regions, when we mention wings, and when we mention adult volunteers, or our senior members, and our youth volunteers, who are our cadets. Which that allows me to bring you to the stars of our show, which are our cadets. So our first cadet is going to be our cadet captain from Great Lakes. Cadet Captain, I will turn it over to you.
Hi, I'm Cadet Captain Lily Schaefer from Great Lakes Region, Wisconsin Wing.
I'm Cadet Major Ian Perkins from Utah Wing in the Rocky Mountain region.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Cadet First Lieutenant Gabriel Reyes, and I will be representing the Southeast region from Puerto Rico.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Cadet Senior Airman Rylan Thiemens, representing the Mid-Atlantic region from Virginia Wing.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cadet First Lieutenant Ava Ferncoast, representing the Pacific Coast region from the California Wing.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Cadet Chief Master Sergeant Buford. I am representing the Southwest region in the Oklahoma Wing.
Good evening, everyone. I am First Lieutenant Gloria Dion, representing the Northeast region from Maine Wing.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Cadet Second Lieutenant Addison Hastings. I'm representing the North Central Ring from Kansas Wing.
And with that, we're going to jump into the meat of our presentation.
When cadets understand the why behind a mission, excitement flows naturally. NASA missions like the Aviation Weather Project aren't just cool. They're a real introduction to emergency services. They give our cadets purpose, connect them to real-world data and people, and let them build valuable skills while having fun. Whether it's tracking aircraft or working as a team in the field, these missions spark curiosity, confidence, and a sense of belonging in a bigger mission. How do we build excitement in this project? We build excitement in this project by giving cadets a clear purpose, a mission. They know what they're doing matters. We show them the data they're collecting and the reach it has, and the connections they're making with people across the country. We focus on skill building so every task grows their abilities. And finally, we make sure it's fun, because when they're enjoying themselves, they're engaged and learning at their best. Next slide, please. As a Cadet Emergency Services Officer and Cadet Aerospace Officer, building my cadets' interest and skills in these areas is important to me. I enjoy it and want to make sure all of you do as well. It's a huge honor to work with NASA as Civil Air Patrol cadets, and we take it really seriously. Training for this mission meant focusing on accuracy, because data collection precision matters. We dedicated hours to practice, making sure every cadet knew exactly what to expect in the field. We divided the work so everyone had a clear role and performed it well. And we repeated our tasks over and over because repetition builds confidence, consistency, and ultimately excellence. Next slide.
All right. Thank you, Captain Schaefer. Just like I said earlier, I'm Cadet Major Ian Perkins. I want to start by saying that this was an incredible opportunity and privilege. This mission was a fantastic opportunity to work with so many different people. This mission wasn't just a chance for us to collect data for NASA, but it was also a chance for us to work with a very wide variety of people from all over the place. If you look at the map on my slide, it shows where each team was located across the United States. This mission really showed me the strength of Civil Air Patrol when we come together as one team and one Civil Air Patrol. It was truly great to see cadets and senior members working side by side, each bringing their own skills and expertise to make this mission happen. I got an experience that was a little extra special. I got to work with 2 squadrons inside of my wing that are literally on the opposite sides of the state. I come from the northernmost squadron and I had to go to the southernmost squadron. And that's a full day of driving. But when we're on a mission, distance doesn't matter. We show up, we work together, and we get the job done. I had reached out to the St. George Composite Squadron to see if I could report on their squadron, and they said they were more than happy to have me visit. So my mom and I made a trip to St. George, and we spent the morning working with their team and getting to know how they operate. What impressed me the most was their mentorship system. Every cadet was paired with a senior member who guided them through their specific tasks, like picking aircraft to photograph, recording data, finding direction of travel. It was clear that the cadets were learning a lot, but having a great time in the process. The cadets were even teaching the senior members a little bit too. The weather that day was perfect with clear skies and a few clouds, great for photos and spotting aircraft. One of my favorite parts was tracking the aircraft overhead and then checking on flight radar to see exactly where they were coming from and where they were going. By the end of the day, they not only helped collect valuable data, but I also made new friends. For the next collection day, I was with my home squadron in Cache Valley. We had a great time setting up and looking for our first aircraft while we waited for everyone to get there. Once the whole team was there, we got right to work. While we were collecting data, we enjoyed each other's company with pizza and some snacks. One of the best parts of the mission was working in groups. The cadets paired with other cadets, learning with each other. We encouraged each other, shared tips, and celebrated each successful aircraft sighting. That teamwork made the process not only productive, but it also gave us a chance to build stronger relationships. The senior members were also a huge part of that too. They worked right alongside us, answering questions, offering guidance, and making sure we understood each step of the process. Thanks to their help, it was easy for the cadets to learn how to use the app, log data correctly, and feel confident in what we were doing. That made the whole experience smooth and enjoyable. In the end, the mission was more than just spotting aircraft and recording data. It was about bringing a large group of people together. We each had our own role, but we were united by the same goal, proving once again that no matter where we're from or what language we speak, we are one Civil Air Patrol. I'd like to hand it over to the other cadets so they could share more depth about each of the mission tasks.
So, good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Cadet First Lieutenant Gavin Reyes from Puerto Rico Wing. So, a little recaps from my experiences that, at least in my part of the Puerto Rico, we didn't have much plane movement, but it was still a great opportunity to get to help NASA with their research, which will help the entire globe. So let's get started with our slide, which is what is making cloud observations. So making cloud observations means looking at the sky to record some information about the clouds you're seeing, like their type, how much of the sky they cover, and their appearance. So with the Globe Observer app, anyone can become a citizen scientist by observing clouds and sharing data with NASA to help improve satellite research, weather predictions, and climate science. So just knowing that with taking some simple photos from the sky is going to help the globe is actually pretty mind blowing. I didn't think it was actually gonna impact so much, but these photos and all the data we're recollecting is a big impact in the future of the world. So it was a great experience of my part, at least. It was a pretty fun experience, also, and interesting. My side, I love everything that has to do with aviation, and this had to do with it. So I would recommend 100%. And now we can pass this to the next slide presenter.
Good evening, everybody. I am Cadet Senior Airman Ryland Demons, and I'm representing the Mid-Atlantic region. I'll be talking to you about how eligible aircrafts for the 2025 NASA Aviation Weather Mission. To find eligible aircrafts, I use an application called ADS Exchange. ADS-B Exchange shows all the plane's information such as direction, speed, altitude, tail number, heading, country of origin, airline, plane type, and more. We downloaded this application on our phone. On the right-hand side shows you an in-app view of ADS-B Exchange. The way that this app works is when you click on a plane, a table on the left-hand side will pop up displaying all the plane's information. By looking at this information, I'm able to tell if the plane meets all the requirements are the airplane has to be at an altitude of 20,000 feet or higher and be visible in the frame of the camera when taking a photo. A neat feature about this application is that the color of these little plane icons correspond to an altitude. The warmer colors correspond to a lower altitude, and the colder colors correspond to a higher altitude. My squadron and I had such an exciting time. We gained valuable experience and learned so much with the help from our leaders. And I can't wait to do this again. I'll now pass it on to the next cadet. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Once again, my name is Cadet First Lieutenant Ava Fernkos. And for our mission, one of the most important component roles was precision photography, which basically means capturing images that weren't just visually clear, but scientifically accurate and perfectly synchronized with other weather observations that we were making. Every single photo had to be geotagged, time-stamped, and taken following strict globe protocols so that it could be matched exactly with reports, satellite imagery, and on-the-ground observation. One of the most important parts of this job came down to timing. In this type of mission, you can't just take a picture when the clouds look interesting. You have to capture each image at the precise moment it lines up with all of the other data being collected. We aim to match our photo times within seconds of meter updates and satellite overpasses. This level of precision ensures that the visual record we created reflects the instruments in the air and space. If we missed that window, the scientific value of the images that we were taking would just go away. For our process for collecting this data was structured and deliberate. We photographed all 4 cardinal directions and direct overhead, ensuring that we had a complete visual profile of the sky. Every photo's metadata, time, location, and camera details was logged alongside all the other weather notes that we were taking. This meant that later scientists could layer our photos over all the numerical data, creating a richer, more complete story of the atmospheric conditions at that specific moment in time. Now, naturally, the sky doesn't make all easy. Clouds move quickly, lighting change in a minute, and weather systems can develop or disappear while you're setting up a shot. That's where team coordination became essential. We had to work fast, communicate constantly, and adjust. And here's where I have to give major credit. I was not working with my home squadron for this mission. I had the privilege of joining Corona Composite Squadron 29. Their teamwork was absolutely outstanding. Every member understood the importance of timing, called out changes as they happened, and supported one another so that no observation or data point was missed. Their ability to operate like a single coordinated unit not only made my job as mission photographer not only possible, but highly successful. In the end, precision photography was far more than just taking pictures. It was about producing scientifically timed, location accurate, fully documented imagery that strengthened the value of the entire mission's data. And thanks to the skill, efficiency, and the teamwork of Squadron 29, our final results from my end of the mission were exactly what we needed. Now, with that, I will hand it over to the next presenter who will share the next stage of our mission and how their work built upon the data that we.
Good evening, everyone. Once again, I am Cadet Chief Master Sergeant Buford, representing the Southwest Region Oklahoma Wing. This evening, I'll be sharing with you what the orienteer's role in the aviation weather mission is. The orienteer first determines the exact location in latitude and longitude of the observation area, then measures the position of the aircraft in the sky relative to this location for each picture taken by the photographer. This was done so that the Globe Cloud team at NASA could combine our ground data with their satellite imagery in order to use it for their study on contrails. The tools that we used were sextants, compasses, maps, and the GPS or global positioning system. We had a perfect day for observation here in Tulsa, clear skies and persistent contrails. For the aviation weather mission, I was primarily a flight tracker, but had training for and actively used all the tools, as did the rest of my team. As a tracker, once we focused in on an aircraft which met the criteria, we used Flight Radar 24. We communicated the necessary information to the data manager and spotter. The spotter would then visually confirm the aircraft in the sky and point it out to the photographer and orienteer. The photographer would then take pictures at 0, 3, 5, 10, and 15 minutes. And for each picture taken, the orienteer used a compass to determine the direction the photographer was pointing, and a sextant to figure out the altitude angle. This data provides a reference point in the sky of the target aircraft for each picture. All of this information was uploaded by our data manager into Globe. Thank you. I will now turn it over to the next cadet.
Hello again. Like I mentioned earlier, I am First Lieutenant Dion, representing the Northeast region, and I will be sharing with you all the protocol for cloudy days. The biggest downside of a nationwide mission is weather. My squadron was only able to participate in 2 out of 4 of the participation dates due to rain. But on the second day, there was a lot of cloud cover, making it impossible to see the planes and contrails. Thankfully, we had a backup protocol which gave us the opportunity to record data about the trees around us. Using the globe app, we measured the height of trees and compared it to the trigonometric measurements that we calculated using a sextant. The data we used will be recorded to measure the accuracy of the globe app and also help estimate the biomass and the carbon that is captured by the trees in our area. There was also another option for cloudy days to observe the land cover. The data was recorded by taking pictures of the land cover and comparing it to satellite images. The cloudy day protocols helped Civil Air Patrol provide data even when the weather conditions were not ideal. And I'm so thankful for this opportunity, and I would like to pass it over to Lieutenant Hastings.
Good evening. I'm Lieutenant Addison Hastings. I'm going to talk to you about how the data will be used from a pilot's perspective. I'm a private pilot. And why are contrails important to pilots? Well, contrails form in cool and humid air, which are also the same conditions that aircraft icing can form. Aircraft icing can disrupt the lift on the wings and cause a drag, which poses a serious risk to flight safety. So the data collected by cadets can help us predict where contrails will form. Just like the image on the left here, this shows the probability of contrails using weather data collected by cadets, satellite imagery, as well as pictures of contrails taken by cadets. This will go into a data set that will eventually be used to improve weather models, like here on the right. This is a chart created by the National Weather Service that all pilots look at, both private pilots and airline pilots, to see what are kind of some of the risks of icing along the route, as well as how to mitigate them. like I said, the data can go into future models as well, so it's not just a one and done, it's a gift that'll keep on giving. And for now, I'd like to turn it over for questions.
Thank you. I'm sure that some of you have entered your questions in the chat as well as elsewhere. So cadets, please feel free to start your cameras.
All right. And Captain Babb, with this slide that's up, I think we're going to take this first question from Heather that says, for the cadets on this webinar, which was your favorite role to do and why? And so we'll just go in the same order that you guys presented, and we'll start with Cadet Captain. And after you answer, we'll just kind of then Cadet Major, and we'll go ahead and answer Heather's question there. Okay? Cadet Captain.
My favorite role and the one I did for most of the mission was mission photographer. I just really like taking the pictures.
Mine's the same thing with the same answer. I'm a pretty big photographer, especially in my personal time. So the mission photographer was my favorite as well.
So in my part, I love plane spotting. So I think that would be my favorite, but I do also like the photography part.
I would also say my favorite part was the plane spotting. And also being the orienteer. I really love that job.
Well, it seems like I'm pretty much part of the majority. The photography part was also my favorite part, just because it really combined two things that I love, which is real science, and I liked how, this part of the this role of the mission just really allowed for attention to detail, especially for the entire team of the mission.
My favorite part of the mission was probably flight tracking. That's what I did most of the time, and it was very fun. And we actually found a Royal Air Force plane while we were flight tracking, and we recorded information on that, which was absolutely amazing.
My favorite part was also photography, but I was not the mission photographer. I was the weather photographer. So I got to enter in everything about the clouds, and I really enjoyed that. I love looking at the sky and looking at all the different types of clouds that are out there.
I enjoyed being the flight tracker. I enjoyed the challenge of trying to guesstimate when the planes would be there to take a picture at just the right time, as well as seeing all the unique airplanes that were flying overhead.
So I was telling you guys, great job. And then I'll go on to the next question here. How contrails affect the wings of aircrafts? I think that's probably a scientific question. Would Ashley or Marilyn want to answer that? And if not, we can go on. Okay, Ashley, thanks.
Online. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Ashley. I am one of the scientists using this data here at NASA Langley and actually getting to analyze it and hopefully put out a research paper. So I absolutely appreciate all of the work the cadets and squadrons have put into this. It's all been amazing and it's been a valuable experience on my end as well. So I appreciate hearing everyone else's experience. As far as the contrails, they won't directly affect the wing of the aircrafts, but they will indicate the type of conditions that are occurring in the atmosphere. And if the contrails are forming, that could mean it's more likely in those conditions that icing would occur on the wings. So it would help us understand what atmospheric conditions we could better avoid or plan for to help avoid icing on the wings. Because as the cadet stated, icing on the wings can be a flight risk, and it can affect just the safety and overall experience of the flight. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Ashley. So another question here from Lynn Chambers says, how much cross-squadron sharing was there? So it's talking about how that in Virginia, there were lots of planes where Puerto Rico had very few. I know that Maine, the first couple of times you didn't have much, but then you found some international flights. So did you share with a different experience with different conditions? So instead of calling on a cadet, if you shared across squadrons, just go ahead and open your mic and answer there. Is there anyone that shared across squadrons?
So I will speak up on that one because
Okay.
most of the sharing did not happen on the cadet level. So Civil Air Patrol utilizes something called the incident command structure, which meant that we were actually communicating with most of the units nationwide. So while the cadets were busy collecting the data, many of the senior members that were helping to provide supervision were talking to each other. And we had several spaces, including a mission help desk and some region-based incident command teams that were coordinating that communication. A lot of that communication was not actually based around the science, it was based around safety because there were things like thunderstorms and other risks that we had to mitigate so that the cadets could focus on the science.
Excellent. Thank you, Captain Babb. I made sure I unmuted before I chimed in this time. So we have another one here that said, did the cadets change their roles during each mission, or did you have the same role for each mission? And we're going to do the same thing, kind of round robin. We'll start with Cadet Captain, and if you'll share with us, did you keep the same role in the mission, or did you change? And of course, if you changed, then tell us how you changed. Cadet?
Yes, for my squadron, we kept the same roles for the missions. We did have some that were their second mission, weren't there the first, and obviously rotated, just replacing. We had people ready. We were all trained to do every job, but we all stuck to one job.
For me, it depended on the squadron. When I went to St. George, they would work in like half an hour intervals, 30-minute intervals, and then they would like rotate each cadet and senior member around to different jobs. At my home squadron, we did not do any rotations at all.
So for my experience, which I only was at my home squadron, we actually did not change positions. We just stayed at the one we actually started the mission. So there wasn't like a lot of personnel, so we just stayed with the same role the whole mission.
In my squadron, we rotated every 15 minutes. So every time we would spot a new plane, we would rotate roles.
So based off of my experience with working with a different squadron, we all kept the same roles. Just because in our case, a lot of the observations in the clouds, the clouds and the planes flying over were constantly on the move. We were constantly collecting data. So I don't think we would have had time to switch positions, but yeah, no, we just maintained same positions.
In our squadron, we only did one mission, but at the very beginning, we just tried each other's roles out to see which ones fit us best. And once we really figured that out, we just fully started on the mission. So
I had a similar experience to Burncose's. We had a bunch of planes flying over us at once, and so it would be quite a bit of time to switch over positions. On the second observation day that we did, there were some new cadets, so we did change out, but my position stayed the same.
In my squadron, the role that you began the day with was the role that you had all through the mission day. However, come our second mission day, we changed up the roles.
All right, so a good mix of staying the same and changing out, and sometimes maybe just changing over the days. That's great. Cadet Perkins, you mentioned that you had worked with a couple of different squadrons. So I want to go back up there to Lynn's question and say, did you share, or can you share how your experience was different between the two squadrons?
Yeah, so experience-wise, St. George took it, they were much more strict about what was happening and stuff. And at my home squadron, there was a little bit more of like, relax and sit in the sun and enjoy the moment. And I had a great time with both squadrons, so.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. And then I see Heather's got a question of what were some of the challenges that you had to overcome during data collection? And let's see, Cadet Captain, would you like to address that one?
Some challenges we had were waiting for the aircraft. A lot of this was just waiting for the right aircraft to fly over. And once you took the pictures, having enough internet connections for them to upload before you had to take the next ones.
So going on to William's question here, experience in programs like GLOBE can lead to career interest. And so what are the cadets' future career interests? And I think this is one we want to hear from all of you. So let's start with Cadet Captain. We're just going to go ahead and start at the top and work our way down again. So what are your future career interests?
I'm not fully sure what I'm going to do. I know I'm going to do something hands-on with aviation.
Me personally, my dream job is to become a professional photographer, hence why I do photography in my free time. And then the other option is becoming a police officer.
So in my part, right now, I'm being involved in a lot of part in the mission of CAP, the Emergency Services Mission. So right now I'm thinking about paramedic. If not, I would go to the aviation side and become a pilot.
Me personally, I really want to go to the Air Force Academy and fly for the Air Force, and then go on to be a commercial pilot.
So me personally, my goal is also to go to the Air Force Academy after high school. As far as future career interest, I would like to do something in either aerospace or aviation, whether I become a pilot or an engineer. Ideally, something that has to do with hands-on technical work with science and data collection.
For me, I'd like to fly for either the United States Air Force or Navy, or become an aircraft engineer.
I have quite a few different job interests, and one of mine is astronomy. I would love to do something in that career field, but I also would love to do something in the healthcare field. So it's a lot of figuring out that I have to do.
And my career interest is to become an airline pilot.
Wonderful. And you guys have all started out on a great journey participating in Civil Air Patrol and then with Globe and Globe Observer here. So lots of bright futures ahead for sure. So another question here from Yulia. What inspired or motivated you to become an air cadet? And so we'll do a round robin on that as well and start with Cadet Captain Schaefer. What inspired or motivated you to become an air cadet?
I don't know. I'd say I just really like being able to lead and seeing the impact I have.
So for me, my oldest brother was originally in CAP and he forced me to join. And then as time went on, I started making a lot of friends and meeting a lot of people that were genuinely interested in things that I was interested in. So I started making a lot of friends and I just kind of stuck around. So here I am.
Honestly, at first I didn't know what to do, but I think I wanted to keep on going for the aviation part. First they told me all about the benefits and the orientation flights, so I think that's what kept me here.
What motivated me was when I used to I live a lot of places, so I travel a lot, and see all the aerospace interest. How I really liked it, so I joined, and I only like the ES opportunities about the Civil Air Patrol.
So for me, I've kind of got like a little story that kind of goes into why I became interested in CAP. So from a very young age, I was interested in joining the military just from, volunteering from for Veterans Day events and things like that. And my mom, shout out to my mom who's actually watching the webinar. She's a senior member of the program, had two siblings that were in the program. She grew up over because her dad was in the Air Force. So Civil Air Patrol, from what I've heard from my mom, was different overseas. But she told me a little bit about the program and kind of what it is. And I was like, okay, this is something that I want to join as soon as I turn 12 years old. So about 2 weeks after my 12th birthday, I joined the program and I immediately fell in love with it, with all the different opportunities, aerospace, STEM, ES, all that stuff. So it's something that I love doing.
For me, what inspired me most is my interest in aviation. I've been interested in it since I was 3 years old, but I really enjoy the leadership, character building, and fitness aspects too.
My older sister joined, and my mom is also a senior member. So I really like had to join, and um, I caught up with her in rank, so that kind of pushed me forward, having someone to like kind of go after.
I was kind of discerning a career in aviation, and Civil Air Patrol has a lot of great opportunities to get up in the air, get familiar with aircraft. Kind of took it and ran.
Excellent. Wonderful. So I have another question for you. And we're going to do a round robin on this. And this is one of my questions. So I want to know, with this project, what surprised you the most? What was your, did you have an aha moment, or I didn't know that existed? Or so what surprised you the most? That's my question. Cadet Captain.
I think what surprised me the most was just how big it actually is. Like, I knew it was a national thing, but going and seeing all the data and everything coming together.
For me, it's hard to say. I was kind of expecting everything that happened. I think the only thing that really surprised me was how well everyone was working together and how well they were learning together.
So I think I'd say what surprised me the most, I'd say, is all the patience I needed to that, because honestly, there wasn't a lot of plane movement, so there was a lot of patience involved. But I think also, as I think Schaefer said, was how big the mission was actually.
I think the most exciting thing was probably using ADS-B exchange and spotting planes.
I'd have to say that the thing that surprised me the most from this mission was how much precision mattered, especially with timing. Like even a minute off from the pictures that were being taken, or the data being logged. Um, it really just, the timing was what made all the scientific data matter.
So something that surprised me the most is once we all got going, we all wanted to keep going and locating and tracking the aircraft all day. We even wanted to skip lunch. But it was really fun and we really enjoyed that. I know that.
I think for me, one of the most surprising moments was the first day we had no contrails. We had a bunch of planes and sometimes like three at a time, but they didn't have contrails on that specific day. And my mom actually thought that planes always had contrails, so it was kind of like a little eye opener to her. But I think that's it.
What surprised me the most was actually the Globe Observer app. I know that when we did the solar eclipse mission a year ago, it was all done on paper. And then so we were monitoring about 7 different clipboards. And at the end of the day, we had a stack of paper that we needed to manually input into and double check. So the Globe app made it just so much simpler to work into our flow and so much less work afterwards.
Ah,
From a national
wonderful.
perspective, real quick, the
Okay.
biggest surprise that we had running this mission was actually the weather. We discovered that the first time that any given point in the United States, there's going to be someone experiencing rain. And we were surprised that all 4 of our observation dates, the Northeast region experienced rain. And so we were incredibly grateful that NASA Langley was willing to work with us to create that cloudy day protocol to ensure those cadets had the ability to participate no matter what the weather did.
That's right. Thank you, Captain Bab. And a quick shout out to Dr. Dave Duda, who I see has joined us tonight. He made contrail formation forecast maps for each of the missions so that these cadets could use them, and notice that the Northeast was going to always be under some weather events and maybe difficult to see the contrails. Dr. Buckner, I'll pass it on to you.
Let's go ahead and we're going to work towards wrapping this up. There are 2 questions we didn't get to, and I'm going to ask the cadets if you want to address either one of these questions to type it in the chat. And those 2 questions were, number 1, did the mission change your career or science interest? So if that applies to you, if you'll write that one in. And the second one was, Liam asked, when did you guys join Civil Air Patrol? So I'll just, instead of having you talk on mic for the sake of time, I'll have you just use the chat. Speaking of putting stuff in the chat, if you have not put in your zip code and the number of people that are watching with you, please do so. So, and if you're outside the United States, just put your country and then the number of people watching. So it's going to be at least one. But I do know that we're supposed to have some groups of cadets watching. So we want to make sure that we capture those numbers. If we can go to the next slide, we'll go ahead and work on wrapping up here this evening. I do want to say, man, what what a wonderful time it has been to hear all of the stories. And I will say that several cadets, a couple not even on here today, have submitted stories that are going to be published as Globe blogs. And the stories coincide with the 4 different dates. So check out the Globe blogs within Globe, and you can read more about the cadet stories. And speaking of making a difference and getting involved, Marilyn, why don't you tell us about another event up and coming as we go to the next slide?
Yes, definitely. So during this period, it started in August and going through October, we're asking those that are near the coast to keep track of the land cover. So what do you see in the surrounding areas? And maybe do that once a week, at least once a month. And this is to help with NASA response mappers. In case there is any events coming up during the hurricane season, we want for volunteers in these areas: Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands to safely keep track of what has changed before. And if an event happens, always be safe. You don't have to go out immediately during or after an event, but track those changes. Those are useful and very helpful. There is a QR code in the website there if you want more information about the NASA response mappers. So thank you again for joining us tonight. A big applause to all these amazing and fabulous cadets. Like Dr. Buckner said, there are blogs where you can read more in detail about their experience. And thank you to all who participated of the 2025 Aviation Weather Mission. It's been amazing and great. We are working on the data, so keep an eye out for a webinar, particularly featuring Ashley Autore, who spoke a little bit before, where she's going to show hopefully all the results that we've seen with your data. Thank you again so much, and have a great evening, everybody.